Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Menachot daf Samach. We are going to begin on Samach Amud Aleph by the new Mishnah. Yesh te'unos hagasha ve'ein te'unos tenufa. So there are certain karbanos, or in this case, mincha offerings, that require hagasha. Hagasha is that the kli of the mincha must be brought onto contact with the southwest corner of the mizbeach, and tenufa, of course, is waving. Now, there are things which require hagasha v'tenufa. It's interesting why it's this particular order, not hagasha v'tenufa is mentioned first. Tenufa v'lo hagasha, some require the waving but not bringing close, and then others are lo tenufa lo hagasha. Okay. So this is going to continue in the next Mishnah as well, and Samach Aleph Amud Aleph. Let's keep going with this Mishnah. So ve'elo te'unos hagasha ve'ein te'unos tenufa. So this one is an example, as we'll see, in which you do need to bring it again to the southwestern corner of the mizbeach, but you don't wave it, such as minchas hasoilus, v'machvas, v'marcheshes. Similar to our previous Mishnah, in which said that it requires shemen, it requires levayna, your typical mincha offerings, which are your minchas nadava, as well as a mincha which is put in a small or big pan, whether it's chalos or a kikin, and each one is separate, not mechsel. Mechsel we saw in yesterday's daf, the thin wafers, minchas kohanim. So we spent a lot of time learning that the minchas kohanim are also require oil and levayna. And it's more comparable because the pasuk kept saying nefesh, which is lashon yachid. Minchas kohen Mashiach, minchas nachrim, minchas nashim, minchas chayte. Here, the minchas chayte is thrown into this category. Minchas chayte, we know there's no shemen and no levayna, but when it comes to minchas chayte, it's similar to all the other mincha offerings in which it does require hagasha, but not waving. Rabbi Shimon Omer minchas kohanim and minchas kohen Mashiach ein behen hagasha. Actually, they disagree with regard to two things. When it comes to the mincha of a kohen and that of the kohen gadol, why is there no hagasha? Lafi she'ein behen kamitza. B'chol she'ein behen kamitza ein behen hagasha. According to them, the din is that anything where we don't do kamitza, there's no hagasha. So what is kamitza? So as we've been learning, you have the mincha, you do kamitza, you burn the kamitza on the mizbeach, and then the shirayim, the leftovers, are eaten by the kohen. Now, when it comes to the minchas kohen, and also the mincha of the kohen gadol, there is no kamitza, because the entire thing is burnt on the mizbeach. Not some of it, all of it. And therefore, since there's no kamitza, as Rashi says, the whole purpose of the kamitza is lahati shirayim l'kohanim. But there's no heter for the kohanim to eat these things. So therefore, to eat, again, from a mincha of a kohen or a mincha of a kohen gadol. Okay. So that's why there's a machlokas whether those require hagasha. So it says the Gemara, Amar Papa, Kol heichad nan eser tanan. Whenever it says 10, it means specifically this. This is how we started also in yesterday's daf. Namely, that it is two separate things. My kamashmal and fukim Rav Shimon the Yermer mechsa chalos and mechsa rekikin yavi kamashmal on deloi. When it says matzos and rekikin, it doesn't mean half and half. It means all matzos or all rekikin. So now the Gemara asks a question: Min hanimili. How do we know all of this regarding a situation where we require hagasha but not tenufa? The Tanabanan. Ilu nemar, if the pasuk would have only said v'havesa asher yasem elul Hashem. If that's what the pasuk would have said, the griva el hakoyin, and you're makrav it to the koyin, higisha, and you bring it close to the mizbeach. If that's the lashon of the pasuk, Hayisar would say ein li shetayin hagasha el koymitz bavad. You would think the only time you need to do hagasha is only on the koymitz itself. Mincha menayin. How do we know that you have to do for the entirety of the mincha? You have to do hagasha. Talmud Leimer mincha. Minchas chayte menayin. Talmud Leimer es hamincha. So we went out from the extra s, a din, to even include the minchas chayte. Gemara then says v'dinhu. Says Rashi, the minchas chayte to una hagasha v'lo tzarich kra. So According to, as we said before, Rav Shimon said you can bring 5 and 5, not 10 of either one. Okay, so we need a pasuk, the S, as a reboy to include minchas chayte, that also it requires hagasha. But the truth is, you don't need a pasuk because you're going to find Kal V'chomer. What's the din? Nemar hacha, as we continue already, fast to Omid Beis, minchas chayva. It mentions the word chayta by minchas chayva. V'nemar hacha minchas nedava, and also by minchas nedava. Ma minchas nedava, when it comes to minchas nedava, tuna hagasha, minchas chayva, tuna hagasha. Minchas chayva is, for example, minchas chayte, right? So therefore, that's an obligation that you have to bring. So we should learn out from here that straight from a Kal V'chomer, you don't need a pasuk. No, you can't learn out from that, because mal minchas nedava, when it comes to a minchas nedava, which we said does require hagasha, shechen tun shemen levayna. Though a minchas nedava, not only does it require hagasha, as we saw in yesterday's daf, it also requires you bring oil and levayna, which is not the case when it comes to minchas chayte. A minchas chayte, there's no shem levayna. You have a minchas saita teichiach. When it comes to minchas saita, minchas kanais, that what? There's no shemen, and there is no levayna, but nonetheless, the pasuk says the heinif esa minchas chayte minchas nedava tuna tenufa. Right, so we see that it does. It needs hagasha. Yeah, but so you want to learn out from the saita, malu minchas saita shechen tenufa, right? Maybe the reason why it needs hagasha is because it needs tenufa. But if there's no tenufa, like a minchas chayte, so you shouldn't hagasha either. So minchas nedava teichiach, because we see by minchas nedava that there's no tenufa, but there's still hagasha. Because we didn't. They're not the same. Hasana Shabbat, what do they all have in common? Shishavel Kamitza, that we do Kamitza, Vishavel Hagasha. Just like the Minchas Saita, just like the Minchas Nedava requires Hagasha. So often the Aviyah Minchas Chayte, Shishavel Hen Ula Kamitza. Minchas Chayte, you do Kamitza, right? And you burn it, and there's, right, Shirayim. So Tishavel Hen Ula Hagasha, right? So we have it's a good Mahatzad. So he said no. Malamad asad shabash sheben shechen hukshru lava ba'ashir kibaani. Timer b'minchas chayte shelo hukshru lavoi ba'ashir kibaani. A rich person can't bring this mincha offering, right? So that is the underlining problem. So a poor person is like a din of oyav yarid, which is totally on your financial ability. So if you have more money, then you're not going to bring a minchas chayte. You're not going to bring a flour. You're going to bring it of an animal. So therefore, because of that, so the Rashi minchas chayte lo hukshru lavai el ba'ani. Only a poor person can bring it. Dechsev by Yikru carbon oil v'yarid v'avia elokayin v'kamatz, right? So you can't learn out from a matzad because maybe by the minchas chayte we're more strict, and therefore because of that you can't learn out that there's a din hagasha except through the Xeris HaKosav that says S. Tell them number S a mincha. Fine. So that's what's coming to teach us. Okay, let's look at question. TB12. Madua iyaf shalomad minchas saita lahagasha v'minchas chayte v'minchas ha'omer b'tzad hashava. Why can't you learn minchas saita? Oh, I don't know. I guess we haven't done that yet. Okay. All right. So the question is, why can't we learn out from the tzad hashava about the din of a minchas chayte? That a minchas chayte requires hagasha. So he said you can't because minchas chayte there's no din of oil. There's a din oil v'yared, and therefore there's no minchas there's no mincha offering for a rich person. So therefore, you can't learn out from here where these other ones can be given. Minchas nedava, a rich person can give, poor person can give, as well as minchas kanais. It's the same thing. Rich or poor, it's the same. The din of sight is the same. Okay, so that is the answer. Talmud Leimer es minchas. Rav Shimon Eimer v'havesa is l'ravos minchas Eimer l'hagasha. Now, when it comes to minchas Eimer, that requires hagasha. V'cheinu Eimer, as the pasuk says, v'havesim es Eimer reishis katzirchem. You should bring the Eimer, which is the first of your harvest, elakayin v'kriva. So l'ravos minchas seitel hagasha. Here we have a pasuk to include even minchas saita that it requires hagasha. V'cheinu Eimer v'hikra v'oisel mizbeach. So again, we ask the question, and this is where the question is going to be for question TB 12 in a moment. V'dinu, we have a kal v'chaymer. Ma minchas chayte, we're already establishing because it has the word s, we already know minchas chayte requires tenufa, but she'ena tuna, it requires hagasha rather. She'ena tuna tenufa, you don't wave a minchas chayte, but teuna hagasha. So minchas chayte she'teuna tenufa, din she'teuna hagasha. So apparently, you can learn off of this kal v'chaymer that certainly minchas saita, minchas kanais, requires hagasha. So the answer is no. You can't learn out from that. Because malo minchas chayte shechein bachitin. When it comes to the minchas chayte, it's brought from wheat, as opposed to minchas kanais, which is made out of flour. So maybe because it's made out of barley. So therefore, since it's from barley, so it's a different din. Now minchas oimer techiach. Minchas oimer is not out of wheat, right? Menachos oimer, the difference between the shtei alechem and menachos oimer, and people say there's a beautiful aruch shulchan about this, that on Pesach we're on a lower level, so therefore the menachos oimer is barley, and then eventually we elevate ourselves to on Shavuos to the shtei alechem, which is made out of wheat, which is supposed to animal food for animal consumption, like barley, and it's supposed to higher level food, which is wheat for people. So anyway, the menachos oimer is also made out of barley. It's not made of wheat. Now, minchas oimer shechein tuna shemen levaina. It requires shemen levaina, unlike the minchas kanais. So minchas chayte teichiach. It doesn't have oil. It doesn't have levaina, but nonetheless, it still requires hagasha. What is the common denominator between all of them? Sheshavel kamitza, v'shavel hagasha. The minchas chayte requires hagasha. So does everything else. Minchas oimer. So often the avi minchas saita sheshavel hen l'kamitza sheshavel hen l'hagasha. So it's a good kal v'chaymer. So why don't we learn out from here? The answer is you can't, because malasan hashabash mehen shechein lo hukshru lavo kemach. Timer minchas saita shehukshru lavoi kemach. Talmud loimer b'hikriva. So it's regular flour, not fine flour. That's the difference. By the minchas saita, it's machshur lavoi kemach. It could even be kemach, even if it's not of the finest flour. Says Rashi. V'hukshu lavo kemach elosoilus. Right? It's a different type of grain altogether. It's soilus. The minchas chayte ksev asir soifa soilus. When the minchas chayte, it says the word soilus. And by the oimer also, it says v'chiserka minchas bikurim minchas oimer v'gersa. That's hainu soilus. Minchas soita, on the other hand, it says kemach soirim, right? So it's a totally different thing. So therefore, you can't learn out one from the other. So that was what the answer should be. There's no way I wrote that. It'd be unbelievable if I did. Madui yevshu loman minchas soita lahagasham and minchas chayte minchas oimer. So it's a totally incorrect answer. I even want to read it. It's embarrassing. So the correct answer is that by minchas saita, it could be even. It says kemach soirin, right? It's kemach soirin, as opposed to mashen kain by the minchas oimer and the minchas chatois. Minchas chatois it says soilus, right, which is like a higher level of flour. So because maybe since it says that, so that's the reason why you can't learn out of Kal V'chomer. Rather, you need a pasuk. Okay, that's what we're looking for there. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Omer. So Rabbi Yehuda says the hevesa is a rabbi's minchas saita lahagasha. So he learns out again that when it comes to minchas saita, you have to bring it close. So Chenu Omer vehevi es karban aleha of minchas Omer l'tzricha kra. Apparently, you don't need a pasuk for minchas Omer. The minchas Omer should be a double pasuk that you need hagasha. My timer. So what's the reason? Because Medina Ka'asya. Apparently, because you can learn out from a Kal V'chomer that certainly Minchas Omer requires Hagasha. Ma Minchas Chayte Sheinu Tuna Tenufa Tuna Hagasha. Because when it comes to Minchas Chayte, as we said, there is no waving, but there is Hagasha. So Minchas Omer Shetuna Tenufa Enudin Shetuna Hagasha, which is pretty similar to the Kal V'chomer that we said before by the Minchas Chayte, which also Minchas Chayte also requires Tenufa and Hagasha. So when it comes to the Minchas Omer, so therefore it's clear that you require Hagasha. Yeah, Mal Minchas Chayte Shchein Ba'chitin. Yeah, but it comes from wheat, as opposed to the Minchas Omer, which comes from barley. So Minchas Chayte Toichiach, that even though it comes from barley, right, just like the Minchas Omer, it still needs Hagasha. So Mal Minchas Chayte Shchein Ba'lavar Avoin. It comes to explain a sin that may have been committed. Haskaras avanhi minchas chayte teichiach. So we said minchas chayte is coming because it's not serving that purpose. It's not levair. You already did the sin. It's not like did she sin. We know that whoever it is did the sin. Because we did. Lorizek, Hasad Shabashim Shechain Shavel Kimitza V'Shavel Hagasha. Hani Yavim Minchas Ha'omer Sheshavel Hen L'Kimitza to Shavel Hen L'Hagasha. So therefore, we have a good Sad Hashava. We don't have a good Sad Hashava with Minchas Chayte. We don't have a good Sad Hashava when it comes to the Minchas Saita. But we do have a good Sad Hashava when it comes to the Minchas Ha'omer. So my Parach, what are you going to ask? From Shimon Parach, Achi. These commonly could happen, right? As opposed to it could happen many times a year. But the Minchas Omer is just a one-time deal. It's only brought Mimecharas HaShabbos. It's brought basically just once a year on Pesach. So Rabbi Yehuda Adrabah, you can say the opposite then. This could be more common because Hanech Zimdel Mishkachas L'Klal. This at least happens once a year. The other one, who says it'll ever happen? Okay. Fine. Omer v'havesa. If it doesn't say havesa, el shiyachin misnadev, that an individual can bring an adava, maybe mincha acheres, to bring another mincha. Chutz me'ela, other than this one, shibi inyan. But then who? Sibor maybe mincha menachitin. We know that Sibor brings from wheat. Chayva, umayvi mincha, umayvi mincha min hasayrin, chayva, and he also brings a mincha from sayrin. So sometimes through an obligation, which is the minchas omer or the minchas the shtei lechem. So af yachid shehevi mincha menachitin nedava yachid hevi mincha min hasayrin nedava. So maybe he could bring also from barley as a nedava. Tam lomer eile. Ainli el eile. You can only bring these of barley, but nothing else. Not as a nedava. O eno oimer eile el oimer hari olai mincha shemevi chamishtan. That you can bring all five of the types. Talmud oimer me'eile. Or it's achas maybe ratzi chamishtan. Maybe you can bring one, or you can bring five. Rav Shimon oimer as a mincha rambos. Shar menachos. It's coming to include other mincha offerings, kigoyin minchas nachrim, minchas nashim, lahagasha. Just like the minchas kohen, so too other individual minchas, like a woman makes a nedava or a nachri, a non-Jew, so too they bring a mincha. Yachol shani marba shtei lechem lechem apanim tamid lermim eila. So my Risal Rabbi says minchas as menachos ahitzi shtei lechem lechem apanim. So marbi ani shar menachos for Hagasha, Sheish Mehen L'Ishim. because it's burnt on the mizbech. Moitzi ani shtei halechem lechem aponim shein mehen leishim. It's not burnt. It's eaten by the kohanim. I've lo minchas nesachim kul ishim. So when it comes to minchas nesachim, which is accompanies karbanos, like the carbon tamid, so that's completely burnt. Yochei hetun hagasha, you would think it requires hagasha. Tavolomer v'hikriva. Now v'hai fikdei v'hikriva. We use this pasuk already. So Mari, so Rabos Shar Menachos Haiti Menachos Nasachim. So why are we excluding Menachos Nasachim? Samachal from an Aleph. So Marbini Shar Menachos Shabois Begalatzman. They come by themselves. It might any Menachos Nasachim Shena Begalatzman. It doesn't come by itself, as we said. It comes together with a carbon. It comes with a zevach. V'lo Menachos the Kohanim Menachos Kohen Mashiach Bois Begalatzman. When they come by themselves, Yochei Tunas Hagasha, you think that they require Hagasha one of Hegisha. So Hami Boyle El Gufa Shetiuna Hagasha. We need it from the pasuk itself. So Min Vihigisha. So Mari, so Rabbi Shamanachas Haiti Minchas Kohanim Minchas Kohen Mashiach from Hagasha. So Marbini Shamanachas Sheish Mehen Leishim. It's burnt up. Uvos Begalatzman is brought by itself. The Yesh Mehen Kohanim, and some of it's eaten by the Kohanim. It's not burnt up at all. The Menachas Nesachim Shenim Ba Begalatzman. The Menachas Nesachim comes together with another carbon. The Menachas Kohanim, Menachas Kohen Mashiach Shein Behen Mechila. And it's not something which Shein Behen Kohanim. The Kohan don't eat it; it gets completely burnt. The Harim is Yachol Bekli. Tavon Leimer VeHarim Mimenu Bekoimtza from the Kmitza Ma. Harama ha'omer l'halam become tzoy yav harama ha'omer kan become tzoy. Okay, we're gonna stop there. Maybe we'll chance upon another question. El menachos tunos hagasha tenufa v'hagasha. I think we kind of did that, right? So mincha. So what requires tenufa and hagasha? We did this. Minchas Saita and the Minchas Aimer, right? So this is clearly there. Let's see, is it mentioned also in the Mishnah? We're going to see later on Minchas Aimer, Minchas Kanais, Tunas Hagasha Tenufa. So it's pretty clear from the Mishnah. We did see it also in today's daf, but let's hold off until tomorrow to do that again. Kamashir b'lovayne b'shem lisel b'minchas chayte. Okay. We kind of touched upon that already. Let's see. Question 13. Ma makar should be kurim tuna tenufa adkan.